Hi, my name is Simon Hedley, known to my clients and partners as a strategic alchemist and an ultimate connector. I'm a chartered accountant who brings together and bridges the worlds of business philosophy, finance, marketing, optimization, ontology, and so much more. Always focused on one thing, the simple idea that can make the difference to people and projects so we can tip the scales in their favor and get them complete. Pause, Stop, Reset is all about the three little words that can make the difference. They have for me and my clients, and I hope they will for you too. During the show, you'll get to learn about my guests' real-life experiences and the insights and lessons they've learned as they've navigated the resets in their personal and business lives, which you'll be able to leverage yourself. So let's start the show. Hello, I'm Simon Hedley, and welcome to this episode of Pause, Stop, Reset. Today I'm joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Dominic Colenso. Dominic knows a thing or two about the highs and lows of performance, and by the time he was just 26, he'd run a Thunderbird, lost $1 million, and been fired by Simon Cowell. He's a speaker, author, and coach, and so much more, and I know this man for many years, and I'm just getting to know him. So without further ado, Dominic, welcome to Pause, Stop, Reset.
Thank you for having me on the show, Simon. I don't think I've ever been referred to as a legend. So there we go. A nice beginning.
It's time. Because you're one of those people that's like who I think you are. And the more you get to know, you're like, you've done this and you've done this and you've done this. It's crazy. It's cool. It's exciting. And you're also a lovely guy, right? Partly why I have you on the show, once you have on the show for so long, is you're really nice people. You've always been super nice people. And you've done really cool stuff, including your recent podcast with that lovely guest. Had me go, no, how did that happen? And got really excited. So I'll get to that. So let's begin with the first lovely introductory question. For people who may not know you yet or haven't kept up with your resets, who are you and what are you focused on today?
So I'm Dominic Colenso. I started my life as a professional actor. So for the first sort of 10 years or so, I was having fun, running around, being on stage and screen. My claim to fame is actually playing Virgil Tracy in the Hollywood remake of Thunderbirds, which is where the Thunderbirds piece of the introduction comes from. And I now use those skills with sales and leadership teams to help people communicate more effectively, help people have more impact. So I spend lots of my time coaching, training, speaking from the stage, and then hopefully carving out moments to exist with my beautiful family.
Beautiful. And you also, a lot of keynote speaking as well, right? Not for sort of small gigs. You look through your past catalogue of who you worked for. It's really quite extraordinary, I think.
Yeah, I've been very lucky over the last few years to work with some amazing clients, and it's a real buzz for me to be able to get out there and pull back the curtain, I think, from some things that people presume are out there for other people. There's some mystique around the world of acting, around the world of film, but actually so much of what actors do is applicable to people in everyday life. So it's a real honor to be able to share it.
And especially these days, everything now requires being media savvy, talking on camera, LinkedIn. We're all directing, producing, acting ourselves. Even me today, I was the behind the scenes guy in my teens. Now I've had to go on stage and other bits and pieces. I sort of love it and hate it. And that's part of what you do to people, I think, help them get that done.
Yeah, I think it's a big challenge. I say we're all now in show business, and whether we like it or not, we all have this digital footprint. And if we want to be visible, we do have to get some level of comfort with these tools. It doesn't mean that everyone has to be out there with jazz hands and, being continually in other people's faces. But actually, the more eloquent you are, the more grounded you are in these sorts of environments, the more you're able to get your message across. And it's a very busy world. Lots of people are vying for our attention. So the more impact you have, the more successful you are.
Beautiful. So let's start on sort of the journey of Pause, Stop, Reset here. If you look back on your life till now, what's the biggest shifts and resets you've been through?
I think I had a few kind of major resets in my life. The first is very personal. So when I was 7, my sister died, and that changed our family dynamic massively, as you can imagine. And so I think you kind of go through a little bit of a reinvention process in those moments. It certainly shifted my very young outlook on life and has played a big part of who I am today. I think these things are kind of cyclical, aren't they? So if we fast forward another sort of 7 or 8 years, I'm then deciding, do I go down a route of moving into business? I was relatively academic. I was at an American international school around the age of 15, 16, and all of my peers were very much sort of focused on going out there and forging corporate careers. And I decided that I was going to go and be an actor and do something probably a little bit more risky. And then the next major one for me was then deciding that my acting career was or served its purpose to a certain extent, and that I wanted to explore using my skills in a different way. So there have been very kind of distinct chunks of my life that lead me to be where I am today.
Sorry to make this, I didn't know about your sister. That's an example of that explains to me a little bit why you're so calm and grounded. I lost a family member as well. Those that haven't had that experience, had sort of that Disney aspect of life, or you have sort of reality. Yeah. Were you quite small when that happened? And if it's okay to ask,
yes, absolutely. Happy to talk about it. Yeah, I was 7, and so I'm one of 4. I'm the eldest, and Abby was the next eldest. So yeah, there was a certain kind of degree, and my parents would agree with this, that I took on a leadership role within the family, very very early on, and tried to hold things together for my mum and dad, and for my younger siblings. I mean, we were very lucky, I think, as a family that experience brought us closer together. I know that some families experience the opposite, and I feel very grateful that we are a very tight family as a result of going through that trauma together. But yeah, it's one of those strange things that there's not a day that goes by where I don't think of Abby in some way. And I'm, very sure that she'd be very proud of what I'm doing. But she's had a big influence on that, from an internal perspective and also an external perspective as well.
I appreciate you sharing and being real. I said I didn't know that about you, but it explains a few things about how you are. And in our 40s now, right? Unfortunately, you've kept the hair. You've done well. But it's those that haven't had that experience when they hit them at 35, 45, 50, have that first deep family loss. It can be really and it isn't any easier, right? It's part of the nature of human life, that weird cycle we go through. I talk about these 3 aspects of pausing, stopping, and then resetting. You get directing and acting from that mindset really well, I'm sure. Which of those is the hardest for you, and why do you think that is?
I think the pause is the biggest challenge that I have. I've actually just come back from a week-long silent retreat, so I'm feeling very paused. But that was the first time that I'd ever done anything like that. And I think one of the reasons why I decided to go and give myself that gift was that in the last 10 years of running this business, there has been a certain kind of always on culture. Very lucky to have team members who will take up some of the slack when I'm away. But I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and so there's always like something in the back of my mind that's going, oh, let's just check in on this. So the week away on the silent retreat was a real kind of like smack in the face to a certain extent of like, you can't do anything. You can't read a book. You can't listen to music. You can't Google something or, send someone a text message. You've just got to be there with you. And I found it a really quite a liberating experience, actually. It took a little bit of adjusting to come back.
I'd forgotten you'd done that stupidly. So this morning I was being a bit like higher. You're like slower volume. Yeah. I'm a Tai Chi guy, 25 years in, right? Other bits and pieces. We talk about the slow waves in the big ocean. Mm-hmm. You don't see much moving, like this dragon energy, but the sort of presence there versus the young, like puppy actor going, hello, like, hi.
Yeah.
And was that in the UK, or where did you go for that? Obviously,
that was in the UK, in a beautiful place called Rosedale in the Yorkshire Moors, which is not far from where I live. But it was just, it was wonderful. It was, dark skies, so beautiful stars and the full moon and all of that sort of stuff. So it was stunning, really stunning.
I loved it that way. I've done it by myself at home, not ideal. And I have crazy friends, like wonderful, interesting friends. They literally get sort of walled into a beehive place where for a week, they're sort of like meditating, sitting. Little bowls go in and out, but they're like, you cannot move, you cannot talk, proper like. And that's just, I'm out. Too much.
Yeah, too much. I mean, this was a little bit kind of zhuzhy by comparison to that. There was some fabulous vegan Ayurvedic food on offer, and all being prepared for us. There was a hot tub and a sauna and an ice bath to chill out in the afternoon. So yeah,
you don't have to like traumatize yourself.
Not at all. Yeah, you can do it in style.
We used to joke that's part of the training. Like, at what point do you go, wait a minute, I don't like this anymore? It's like, yes, congratulations. Yeah. I love that. If you go into sort of that sort of wisdom, right? You've obviously lived lives, you've got lots of experiences. What's the most important lesson you wish you could give your younger self, and why? There's classic questions, right? But what's the thing that you wish you could sort of send back to your 7, 8, 10-year-old self?
I think probably have more fun.
100%.
I obviously, losing Abby at that young age probably did bring a relative kind of seriousness to the next sort of 7, 8 years of my life. And as I look back on all of the things that I've done, I've just thought, God, there were so many opportunities. It's not to say that I didn't enjoy them, but I could have enjoyed them more. I could have been more
British, mate. You and I are British. It's just the annoying thing. It's like, what? Because anywhere else, they're like, it's Spanish people, There's like, like, it's lovely to see you, Dominic. Have a nice day. It's
exactly.
Like, it's just.
Yeah. And I think, there are so many opportunities, aren't there, that we can pass by doggedly trying to sort of stay in lane. I think as I look back at my career as an actor, and I was very lucky to have lots of success, there are still kind of risks that I could have taken. There are still opportunities that I could have, jumped on. And I think probably to have seen it more like a business. So I was very pure artist in those early days, and because I was to a certain extent adverse to the idea of the kind of commercial side of it, I think I probably missed out on a few fun opportunities that could have been good stories for the story bank.
It's also changed quite a lot, right? I've been around the industry sort of adjacent. One of my old clients, 1 billion YouTube views when he was like under 18, but it wasn't really, it was like planned, but it wasn't planned, right? The movie career, the producing things, it's a very weird space of, how did you get that gig for like Malibu when you were 17 directing in Soho? Like, it doesn't make any sense. But also today, there's this weird balance of actor plus marketer for the movies, right? It isn't that sort of, I don't do that, sir. It's, you have to sort of play the game.
You have to play the game. Yeah. I was speaking with an actress that works with me as a role play actor, working with corporate clients, and she was talking about the recent kind of casting process that she'd been through for a film. And one of the things that the producers wanted to know was, what was her Instagram following? I was like, what? Like, where does that come from? So they're looking for, you to have that whole package. And I'm so glad. My only regret from my kind of film days is that camera phones didn't exist. So I don't have loads of like selfies of me with the amazing people that I work with, or not even the selfies, but the kind of memories captured in that way. But I'm really glad that I wasn't doing that in the age of social media, where people can just be so vile to you online.
We're just testing this new one here from Insta, not a sponsored thing, and it's nuts because literally it's out of a hand, 4K 360 footage.
Right.
It's really weird. You get acting director. We want to have our channeled conversations, right?
Yeah.
But it's also that ability to switch off, that entrepreneur thing, because especially you've been out to LA, obviously, in the days, and in London. Yeah. Everybody knows somebody. There is no switching off, but there isn't. And it's a very different space to actually have that freedom to mess up.
Yeah.
Do you ever come across Lynn Rose in your travels? My friend Lynn.
No, I don't think so.
Sure, you guys introduced. Ex-Broadway does sort of training, but emceeing people like Les Brown Hansen. Her whole, that magic space of when you could mess up, you could mess up, they know you could mess up, and you don't. Then you get that like transcendent performance, but it is risky. It's that weird, and most of us have been taught not to fail. Like even talking on camera and doing a show and doing it, and it is wrong and messy, and and grungy sometimes.
But that's life, isn't it? And I think there's a certain extent to what we see now, which is very sanitized. It's very perfect.
Yeah.
And I think
fake, I'm jumping in, or fake not perfect.
Yes, exactly.
Like we've done it deliberately not to look perfect, but we know we're doing it. It's
which is weird. Yeah.
So I didn't mean to stop you. Carry on, please.
No,
please.
I think because of that, the real conversations, that to a certain extent, the ums and ers and all the things that you can now filter out of every video that you've ever made is what makes you human. So it's not to kind of downgrade pure art where things have been polished and made to look beautiful, but at the same time, messy can be good sometimes.
Yeah, and you've had that week of meditation and quiet time, right? That thing of what matters. Probably 5 years out, there'll be a photo of you and you saying hello, and it will now do anything you want in 4K, 8K holographic, and just 50,000 languages, alien. Like it's off, it'll go do its own thing, right? It's really a strange time. Let's lead on to one of my favorite things, is books and movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of those people that sort of loves getting those inspiration, those modeling behaviors from what I see in ideas and role playing. And I'm going to go back to your Star Trek thing, hopefully a bit more, because one of my old mentors, he was like, imagine you're sort of on the sort of Enterprise, who's advisory board, and role play your business with those people, right? But what were the books and movies that have most helped you pause, stop, reset, most helped you sort of change your life for the better?
I think if I think about recent influences, there's a beautiful film called Gratitude Revealed by a director called Louis Schwartzberg, who also did a fascinating Netflix movie about mushrooms, fantastic fungi. So he's just a beautiful cinematographer, but takes really simple ideas and brings together, fantastic documentary guests to be interviewed about it. So that sort of thing for me is really kind of grounding and really important to stop and take stock of what you have and what we're surrounded by. I think if I think of the more kind of entertainment type movies, like I'm a massive Disney fan. It's like really sad, but I'm just
they're great, right?
I'm a big kid, so like I love all of the kind of Disney animation, Pixar stuff where you can just have a proper belly laugh and be 7 again and just kind of sit in that world of imagination and imaginative play. And they have beautiful moral teachings when you dig beneath them, but you can also just sit there with your bucket of popcorn and have a giggle, which I think has its place as well.
As we say, having fun is okay, right? And it's true. Yeah. Some of those Disney Pixar movies, it's that suspended disbelief conversation. That's why I like sci-fi. Yeah. If it's you and I in London, in Soho, it's us in Soho. If it's on Mars, we're not worrying about it's real. We get into sort of role play character and the other bits and pieces.
I constantly looking around the world at the moment going, God, like Wall-E's true. Like we're all sitting on floating hoverboards with takeout pizzas, not engaging our brains at all. So like there's a degree of the shaman and the soothsayer in what Disney has to say sometimes, which is good and bad.
And revealing a bit of a secret, inside that sort of industrial production, there are lovely creative people going, I'll just nudge it this way. And those have the eyes to see, clock it and go, ooh, good idea. That's interesting. And it's very subtle. The joy of creativity, right? On the good days.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing I know for myself, when you have these hard times or even good times, right? Because pause, stop, reset isn't just bad stuff. It could be won the lottery, now have to reset. It can be baby coming, great things happening. What's helped you get through those moments when you had to really pause, stop, reset? What was the stuff that helped you navigate that?
The first thing is relationships. So, my wife and I are very lucky to have a continual dialogue. And that was one of the hardest things being away for 5 days on a silent retreat, was not getting to talk to Laura. So I think we work together very well to kind of coach each other through those hard times. I think it sounds cliche, but having your kind of mentors or the people that you look up to, and they don't even have to be people that you get to speak to on a daily basis. They can be, the people who've written great things that really sort of speak to you. And then I think for me, one of the most important things is my own well-being. And I don't necessarily mean the kind of meditation and mindfulness piece of that, because my practice in that world is relatively young. But just taking care of yourself, eating well, getting outside and having some fresh air, being able to have some level of exercise, whether you're a gym bunny or whether that means just strolling through the park, but really kind of getting back and connected, being present when we get to those moments where we need to pause, stop, or reset. It's normally because there's so much going on. And I think as an actor, I spent a lot of time trying to work out how to be grounded and how to be present on stage. People always talk about actors as having great presence. Well, what does that mean? For me, that means that they are in that moment. So when you see a great actor in a great scene on screen, you believe it because that person is there having that conversation with that other character. And actors are able to kind of take that mantle off and then, go and walk out of stage door or walk off the sound set and have another conversation. But the more that we can bring ourselves back to the present moment, the more effective we are in life, in business, and with ourselves.
That was a good bit there, Dominic.
So I went off on one.
No, you didn't. You did the thing, which is what needs to is speaking truth, it's real experience, not the preachy story. And it's valid. My brain went to what they said about Tom Cruise. He has that sort of almost empty brain when he's there. He goes, right, I'm here now, bang.
Yeah.
He can be there being chilled or there being intense. And it's really interesting watching. I had a Japanese friend. She was genius at it. She could be like crying her eyes out on camera and the next minute going, ha, 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 and then back again. Like, well, sorry, what was that? And it's not personality. It's just able to learn that mechanism in a really powerful way. I'm going to go slightly off script a second because my brain went back to Jonathan Frakes, William Riker. How did that come to be? Have you known him for ages or just like...
So Jonathan was actually the director of the Thunderbirds movie.
How did I not know that?
So we worked together for 5 or 6 months on the film itself, and then went out and did the promo for it afterwards. And that was so amazing to have someone with that lived experience of being in the spotlight and being in the genre as well as the person that was literally steering the ship. And I was 21, just out of drama school. I'd done a BBC period drama at that point, but very little other screen experience. And here I was with not only Jonathan Frakes as the director, but Sir Ben Kingsley and Bill Paxton. So there were these people that had so much knowledge, and they were so generous with that knowledge that it was a really kind of transformative experience to be on that set. But Jonathan just held the whole thing together with so much kind of grace and good humor. He has this amazing ability to just put people at ease. So, you'd walk onto set and he'd be singing and, you'd be worrying about what you're about to do. And all of a sudden you'd just be smiling and relaxed. And all of a sudden the cameras were turning and the take had been done. And he was like, great, that's in the can, on to the next one. So he just facilitated this environment where people were able to perform at their best.
And do you think that is because of that sort of inner calm? Like, you've been directing yourself, right? There's the director's like, no, that's wrong. And it's all very stressy. And others that have that ability just to be like, NASA mission control, no problem. It's...
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting to have him on my podcast because I'd never really talked to him about that side of things and that process. And I remember him disappearing in the lunch breaks, but didn't really think anything of it. Thought, he must be in a production meeting or something. But he said when we spoke that actually that was him going off to his trailer to spend 10 minutes in quiet, and to get himself back and grounded so that he had the energy to come back out there and hold the space for everyone else.
Love it. And you get why I'm so passionate about, I didn't invent pause, stop, reset. It's the stuff I wish others could do. And normally when they most should pause, they can.
They don't.
And it's like we've all been there, right? We've all sort of kept going. It's like, why didn't I just shut up? Why did I just stop, put the phone down, just back away?
And he said, the great thing about that is that he makes that a non-negotiable, so that, but that means that he doesn't get bombarded, because if you don't set that boundary in any position of leadership, when you have that kind of level of visibility, you're kind of fair game. People want to engage. People need to ask you questions. But if you can put that structure around yourself to say, no, this is my time and this is important, because then, people will generally respect that and everything becomes smoother as a result.
Beautiful. Thank you for being real with it as well, right? So if you haven't checked out that podcast, check out that podcast. And I am a slight sci-fi fan in a way that's really bizarre. But also looking it back as you get older, watching it from the production, the storytelling. I was also a Babylon 5 fan. Have you come watched Babylon 5?
Yeah.
And my friends knew the guys that made it in the back history. And you get the back history, you're like, didn't know that about what happened in the show. And then you rewatch it knowing the only person that knew it was the writer-producer. And knew the story arc.
Yeah.
So that season 1, he knew where the show was going.
Okay.
And when you watch it back, you can sort of see it like that. Yeah. Crazy experience. And as we say, we're all sort of writing our lives and our stories of who we are and setting those as well.
Yeah.
There are people listening to the show that are looking to shift what's possible for them, right? Either their life is not how they want, or they're going great and what else is possible.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your biggest suggestion if they sort of said, right, we're $100 in funding for you, Dominic, we've got 10 minutes, 5 minutes. How do we help them? What's your top tip?
So for me, both as an actor and when I work with clients now, the number one kind of step is getting clarity of intention. And I think about intention as having kind of 3 prongs. So there's the intellectual intention in terms of, what's the thought process? What do I need people to know? What's the route map that I'm creating? There's the behavioral intention in terms of what do I want to do, or what do I want people to do? What's the outcome I'm looking for? But the thing that I think that people miss, and it's actually the thing that actors don't miss, is the emotional intention. So like, how do I want to feel? Or how do I want the audience to feel? Or how do I want the team to feel about this project, or the clients to feel about this product? And I think that the more connected we are to that emotional, human side of us, the more effective we are in every interaction that we have. So if people had 2 minutes after listening to this episode before they went into the next human interaction that they had, whether that's with their family or whether that's with their colleagues, just spend 30 seconds getting really clear on how you want people to feel, and then spend the next minute and a half relaxing and allowing that into your mind and your body, so that when you walk into that interaction or turn on that Zoom call or walk through the front door, that there is space for that emotional connection to be made.
I really, really love that. I want to go a bit deeper if I can, because my book is literally called Chaos to Clarity, right? Not like that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
The thing I've noticed in writing it and around others, which is that focus of, getting in that space, people no longer know what they do want. So if they're from your work, right, it's easy to say, I don't want to feel. Like, I don't know. Like, how would they sort of find that intention? Does that make sense? Especially if their inner intuition has been miswired. You know what I mean? Many of us have been in that journey of it's all working. Oh, it really wasn't. Oopsie. And we've learned we can't always trust the inner GPS so much anymore.
Yeah. So, I mean, actors work in one of 2 ways. So you either work outside in or inside out. And I think to a certain extent in a kind of human capacity, the more we can work inside out, the better, because we're then kind of connecting to a place of truth or stillness or a being, and we're being and the word gets overused, but we're being as authentic as we can be.
I love and hate that word, by the way. You know,
it's
being
difficult.
Authentic now. It's like, what does that even mean? You keep changing who you are, and it's all. You know, I know what you mean. Aligned, right? They're all sort of. There's a line there. There's a reason.
But if you're struggling with that, then you can work outside in. And a lot of actors will kind of make the starting point, right? What would the character wear? What shoes would I have for this scene? And so you can take outside stimulus to try and kind of help you work with that. So from a communications perspective, for example, I'd be getting people to create lists of doing words of things that they want to do to affect other people. I'm going to stand up now. I'll be back from the microphone in 30 seconds. There's a book called The Actions, The Actors Thesaurus. And this is literally just a book of doing words, of things that you can do to other people that they can feel in return. So they're transitive verbs. So you might be trying to excite people. You might be trying to reassure people. And you can use something like this as a jumping off point. And you'll very quickly, if you start looking at that list, you'll start, that doesn't work. That's where I want to be. So it is a kind of filtering process. But I think when we think about our emotional connection, especially in a work context, actually, I think we've been encouraged to leave that at home, and you're leaving part of yourself, in the living room when you walk into the office every morning. So the more we can be open to allowing, it's not about being emotional, and that's really important. I'm not encouraging people to go in and shout and scream and cry or whatever.
I love that you said it. One of my biggest bugbears, people that have had training in communication, and they're turning on and it was so heavy. It's like, that's not required to be communicative and powerful and impactful. It's like,
it's actually much more important. How do you want others to feel? So, like bad acting, the kind of like, I have many friends who've been in EastEnders, but generally speaking, it can be a little bit like, showy. But good acting, where people have time, is where they really are thinking, how do I affect other people? How do I, and that then moves into the territory of, how do I show up in the world? What impression, what impact am I here to create? And when I leave the room, when I leave the planet, what am I going to have left behind? And the more time you can spend, with that, I think the more fulfilled you end up as a human being.
Again, I'm sort of underline, reverse that, listen back to that you and I are wired the same way. The really fascinating bit, and you get this more than most, I'm sure, you can have the intention, but how somebody responds / reacts to your communications isn't always to do with you. Like, it's sort of this weird, like, I remember she said, like, do you want a coffee? He started bursting into tears, and you're like, don't understand it. Yeah, and there's a whole thing called ab reaction. You come across that term, an ab reaction?
No.
It comes from like sort of the therapy counseling space.
Right.
He has an abnormal reaction. Like, they go from able to self-regulate to they're gone. And it's not like they can't stop. The actor who goes on stage and suddenly they're passed out on the floor, panic attacking. You're like, well, when I was 7, my friend's cat saw a dog, and it's like, okay, and there's that grief trauma that doesn't usually get talked out and shared and communicated and even processed. We've got a bit of time left, I think, right? And I'll go a bit sort of, again, I started to go off script. You're an improv master. You can handle these conversations with fun and dance. I grew up loving a show called Mr. Ben. I don't know if you're old enough to have crossed Mr. Ben as a kid.
Not properly, but I know of, yeah.
One of my bugbears is there's always lovely shows from my youth that nobody else really knows, right? Sergeant Bilko hasn't aged well, but Sergeant Bilko, the black and white Phil Silvers. again, they're sort of contextual frames of good and bad and bits and pieces, the old Robin Hood stories and the Sherlock Holmes stuff. Mr. Ben especially was you walk down the road, you go in the fancy dress shop, and you become a policeman, the fireman. And I loved that for 15 years. I go to Salsa and be Salsa guy, Tai Chi guy, banking guy. Mm-hmm. In the modern world, everything's cross-slate linked over. So it's very hard to switch contexts. Mm-hmm. I'm sure maybe you come across the phrase gradients of communication.
Yeah.
So the Raymond thing. Even that, somebody goes, what are you talking about? Somebody else goes, yes, I know that very well. Mm-hmm. And switching gets really interesting. We're in a one-to-one communication. You can do that really easily. When you've got multiple audiences with different knowledge bases and sets and spaces and what's okay and not okay. And there's a rigor of communication that you can go into, that sort of, LA world of what does that word mean? And when you say can, everything is possible. It means nothing. And it's like, okay, just chill a bit. And you're sort of, I'd say you're semi-Northern British like I am. I'm a pretend I'm Southerner, but I'm really Northern, right?
Yeah. Northern
British, we speak in the silence.
Yes.
So actually the communication isn't the words like, all right, mate. And that can mean a billion different things.
Yeah.
And I'm only talking about this because my lovely friend is American. He worked with sort of special forces guys. And he was talking about Japanese. And he says that if you ask a Japanese teacher how to close the window, they'll give you the Japanese words for how to close the window. Mm-hmm. But an actual Japanese talking to each other would never say those words to close the window. They would say, are you cold?
Yeah.
And the person would go, I'm not, but maybe they're cold. Why are they cold? And close the window. And
right.
It's interesting. Learned that over lockdown. My brain was just like, okay, reset. It's fun. Thoughts on how in the modern world you can have fun with that Mr. Ben aspect? Because it's one of the things I hear, and you might know Marissa Peer and John Davey and those guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They often wanted me to be a set way. I like being playful and eccentric and out there, but also I can be very serious, chartered accountant, bank. So there's a lot, not just me talking for me, but also I think people struggle with how they can be playful and show up. We've seen the presence of countries. They had a beer in the pub. How could they? There's a horrible... Does that make sense what I'm pointing at and opening?
I think, I think there's more space for it now than there has ever been. So, I think we wouldn't have even been having this conversation 20 years ago. And I think you have to do these things with kind of awareness, I suppose, and be clear on why. So it's not, I don't think what you're suggesting is, people live in, especially not the name of this podcast, but you live in chaos, moving from one thing to the next.
Far from it. But if you want to go to a kid's fate day and put a face mask on and be silly, it doesn't mean it's going to destroy your corporate career.
Exactly.
Right?
And I think the biggest challenge that people face is taking the spotlight off themselves. And what I would encourage people to do is turn the spotlight on others. So people get bound up and awkward and nervous about showing people other sides of themselves. Like 99% of the time, no one cares. Like most people are walking around thinking about themselves, not thinking about you. And actually, the way to make more impact in people's lives is to touch their lives in different ways. So if you have the impulse to do something silly or try something out, or you want to, have a certain, persona, the kayaker or the Tai Chi guy or whatever it is at the weekend, do it. But don't think about you. Think about what that means to the other people that you're connecting with. And the more you can turn that spotlight around and put it on others, the easier it is to be who you really are.
Love it. I got two more little follow-up-y bits, if I may, right? I love also what you said, nobody really cares. That was my old friend and client James's thing. We'll leave that message in James' little edit there just for you. He's like, do you think I'm going to watch your videos? The classic entrepreneur doing his first hi.
Yeah.
Like, no one's going to see it. Yes, it will. No, you'll have 10 YouTube views if you're lucky in the next 50 years.
And 4 of them are from your mum, that's...
And when you really get that, it's like, oh, wow. It's really crazy, that aspect to it, right?
Yeah.
Also, we forget in the acting world, it's not usually a one take shot. They've done it lots and lots and lots and lots, messed up, edited, come back the next day. It's a whole mindset thing. So that's underline what you were saying about getting out of your own way, which leads me to the real question, right? One of the I've struggled with my whole thing. I'm sort of an introvert, learn to speak in public. You're like, a lot. No. I'm a non-verbal communicator by preference. I'm like introvert, quiet geek guy. Really? Yeah. I have, but 25 years of bad acting training and speaking training and, Pineapple Dance Studio, you missed those days. Yes, hours of fun. Street Jimmy Locking. Yes, hours of fun. How do you deal with the negative critics? How do you deal with that? Oh, I didn't like what you said. And in the modern world, we tend to get more negative feedback than the great job guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just thoughts on that from both your personal business acting, because I think that many haven't got that actor confidence. And I'm sure Will had good and bad days. You will, James had bad days. You've had it, but there's a bit of handling that negative criticism. But most of us don't have that sort of slightly switched on Donald Trump thing to go, I don't care, or whatever. Right?
I think the rigor is in the preparation, and I think that we can let ourselves down in the preparation, and we make ourselves vulnerable to that negative feedback in the preparation. And by preparation, just to clarify, I'm not talking about I need to spend 7 hours rehearsing for this difficult conversation that I'm about to have. I'm talking about the 30 seconds before you walk into the room, where you take a deep breath and you bring to the forefront of your mind exactly what the message is that you want to communicate. And, as we've already talked about, maybe how you want that person to feel at the end of it. But I think if you can walk away from, any human interaction saying, I did my homework, I showed up fully present, not distracted by my mobile phone or half reading an email. And I did my best to connect with that other person, whether that's you in a room connecting with other human beings, or whether that's you creating a video to send out to the world. If you can be proud of the way that you prepared, and that you are happy that you delivered the message that you were there to deliver in the best possible way, then what anyone else says is kind of up to the universe and up to them. And you can't take that feedback on board. If you're asking for feedback and you have trusted people that are there to help you, then you should listen to that feedback. But 90% of the feedback that you get, good and bad, is just noise. So it's about your commitment to your message rather than what people tell you after the event.
Love it. And if you watch back, I've got a bat phone. So my mum, Dr. Hedley, was texting me in the background. She's nothing bad, but that's right. I have that problem. I sort of juggle stuff for other people at quite different places.
Yeah.
Let's go. I need you. Oh, it's milk is it milk from the shop, or is it major emergency? And occasionally that proper, like everything, we call it sort of phone off time at the weekend, like going, I'm turning everything off for 24 hours.
Yes.
Making that thing other people and watching some people freak out, and other days nobody calls. It's really fascinating. And you're like, oh, okay, then. I'm still going to give a bit more with like last minutes we've got left, because I'm sitting there going, I'm there, right, with you. Love what you're saying. But you've got that person, either the actor or the entrepreneur, that does take it to heart, right? Mm-hmm. You've clearly sort of matured, right? It's not good or bad. We have those good days journeys. If they are, I'm sure in your directing, you've had an actor that was sort of, it's just feedback. Don't take it so they're defending. It's okay. But how do you get them out of that? Because it is hard when you've been burnt, you've been bad relationship, messed up boss, and you haven't got the money in the bank and the success stories. For every actor that gets the Thunderbirds, there's a lot that don't, and it isn't personal, but it is. But it isn't that really fine.
Yeah. I mean, we try, and it is it's a work in progress to live in our house with a kind of 2-minute rule. So you can lean into the frustration, the disappointment, the being annoyed. You can swear, you can stamp your feet, 2 minutes, and then move on. And moving on generally is actually about changing your physiology. It's amazing how we get stuck in our heads, we get stuck in our thoughts. And if we can get into our body, if we can go for a walk around the block, have a stretch, touch our toes, jump up and down, punch the punch bag, whatever it is to shift physically, then often the mind will follow. So that's been the most effective way for me. And I've had moments where I've had to do that kind of subtly on stage, where you're speaking and you think, oh wow, that story that normally lands with a great laugh at the end, and you can see the look on people's face that they've taken it and that they're engaged. That didn't happen today. So like, what am I going to do to get them back on track? And often for me, that'll be a walk across to the other side of the stage, pick up the glass of water, have a sip and go again. But I think we underestimate the power that we have in our bodies to be able to change what goes on in our minds.
Again, listen back to that. That's a masterclass in doing the right thing said well. Excellent work, Dominic. Not being sarcastic, by the way, because I'm going, yeah, what he said, that's really good. It's so vital. Look, I've really enjoyed today. Hope you had some fun.
Pleasure. Thank you.
If you have any other guests that you go, I'd love to hear what they'd say, send them our way and say, I'm not going to put you on the spot today, but if you do, yeah. I love doing this. And also you get the questions are usually the same. One of my dreams is others can do the show, not me. It's not about me, like, get it out there. Yeah. I think people are going to go, I want to learn more about that lovely man, Dominic, and what he does. The legend, I keep saying, the legend, Dominic Colenso. You can use that. Joining the stage now, the legendary speaker, author, coach, and much more, Dominic Colenso. See the fun I have in the old days. Especially my American friends, I like having the British voiceover.
British voice, yeah.
Thank you for calling Melanie. She's in meetings right now. And it's like, who's your new PA? So how do they find out more about you, and what's the best way to get access to your world and, get engaged with who you are and what you're doing?
So simplest thing is to go to the website. So dominiccolenso.com is where you're going to find all of my speaking side of things. And there's links there through to the training business if you're in a corporate organization and looking for help for your leaders and sales teams. If you want a really easy shameless plug for my book, Impact, which is available in paperback, but also on audio. So if you prefer to listen, then grab that at Audible or Spotify. And I do respond to every email that I get. So drop me an email, dominic@dominiccolenso.com.
When you get a billion emails next week, just remember I did smile and go, ha, 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 ha.
It might take me some time if there are a billion of them, but I promise you will.
AI is coming soon. No, it's really fun. As I said, I've known you for what feels like over a decade, but there's knowing and there's getting to know. It's one of the things I miss is those long lunches and quiet times. And especially after lockdown, it's why I got really excited about reconnecting with people. Plus, getting behind the mask takes some time to have people open up a little bit. So I really appreciate who you're being. I'm really the roundedness of it. And the reminders to me that are really useful. I love that 2-minute rule, by the way. I'd heard that-ish, but forgotten it. And you need to vent that, go, blah, right now, reset. Yeah. And it's one of the bugbears when people don't let you do it. They go to hyper coaching mode.
It's all right. No, just enjoy it and then move on.
And also they're like, it's okay. It'll be okay. No, something bad's just happened that is bad. Let's not just be it's all fine. It's all fine. It's like the world's a strange one today.
Yeah.
I love the recommendation on the movie you mentioned. I'll check that one out. I'm trying to find my little notes. That's why I was typing away in the background. It was the Gratitude Revealed movie. I love the fungus one. And what I love about it, by the way, there's so much things to your friend that if you're listening, that we don't know about you and what you know, right? This weird knowledge base of humanity that hasn't been shared yet. Go find your voice and share it. And I will buy the actions, the actus thesaurus. Never come across that one, but I love the idea of that book, just picking and choosing from the game of life.
Yeah, exactly. Write your own story. And that's a great way to start.
And as you said, when you leave the planet, how do I want to leave people feeling? And I think that's a really good reminder. So with that said, Dominic, thank you for being part of Pause, Stop, Reset. And we'll hopefully see you next time. Any final words of wisdom before we leave the show for today?
Just thank you for having me on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Once again, I'm Simon Hedley. Thank you for listening to this episode of Pause, Stop, Reset, which is brought to you by the team at simonx.com and published by thesimpleidea.com. So you get maximum value, and to access all the bonuses and gifts, make sure to head to pause.reset.com, register and explore the portal. And if you're looking for great people, check out onesmartnetwork.com. If you've enjoyed the show, do give us a positive review, subscribe, and share this episode with friends. I can't wait to share our next episode with you. Till then, remember you can always choose to pause, stop, reset.